Welcome back to Unlearning and Unbothered with me, your host, Joy Divine. I have here with me the beautiful Nicole. We're going to discuss more of our topics on holiday, food, family, and being fat, and how all of those things coalesce, more or less. Um, and from the perspective of a non-binary person and what her thoughts are on that. So, would you care to introduce yourself to the people?
Of course. Hi, everyone. My name is Nicole, also known as Iconic Beauty on Twitter, Instagram. And yeah, I'm a non binary black trans woman. And I have a lot of interest in this topic. So I'm very happy to see where this conversation will go.
I'm excited to have you here. So, thank you for joining us for what was it like growing up as a fat black um, woman or non-binary trans woman in your experience?
In general, I think it was a very integral part of my experience because I've always been fat. Um, my size and my weight has fluctuated over the years, but I've always been fat and I've always been identified and perceived as fat. So I think that, that's something that I can't, separate from my experience or my identity at all.
Um, and what did you internalize yourself? Just as a follow-up question, like how did that kind of affect your self-esteem and your development as a person?
I think that it really made me internalize how just before I could even realize it and before I knew what fat phobia was, I just always knew that people would just take that as, something to ridicule, like the body that you're, born in is just something to ridicule and not be taken seriously and
Mm-hmm.
just be seen as grotesque and hideous and just this terrible thing. I guess that really settled in after a while with my self esteem. I think that, especially over my formative years, it really messed with me. It really bugged me. And it's something that I'm still working on, like, healing to this day. I
Mm-hmm.
think that fat phobia is something that is systemic and really should be treated more seriously in general.
Definitely. Um, I don't know if you remember, we were part of one of the Twitter Spaces a few
Hmm.
weeks ago, well, a couple weeks ago, and I remember you mentioning like how it can be an ungendering experience, like just being fat and um, being a woman, and like how is that kind of. I know for me, it's kind of been hard to embrace my femininity at times because I'm tall and I'm fat and I'm black. So
Oh yeah.
some people read me as a man, like when I'm just out in public, I get called sir sometimes, and it just like, completely throws my day off. Like, so I don't know for you, like in embracing femininity, like how has your fatness kind of been? Has it been a barrier to that, or what would you say?
It's been, I guess, like either way. It's gone either way for me. And I definitely know what you're talking about because people will like being black and being fat at the same time. I talked about it on Twitter as you mentioned before, but it really causes people to perceive you differently, and it really, like, your body, your blackness and your fatness will evade like gender placement a lot of the time.
Yeah.
So I think
And don't also
that,
be dark skinned at that. Like that just
yeah. Um but for me it's like, I think that since people, gendered me as a man this entire time, they, like, following that same logic, they thought that, oh, since you're fat, you're so big, you need to wear a bra, you need to, like, not necessarily embrace, I'm trying to find the right words. But, like, steer towards femininity because you have no place in manhood. And I've
mm,
come to realize that, they were right. In a completely like violent way. But, I didn't have a place in manhood. And I, even now, I'm starting to realize that I feel as though I do not have the same, I guess I want to say, access as, a skinny woman of any experience.
mm-hmm.
Like, I don't have the same experience. I don't have the same life as them. I don't navigate the same way that they do.
mm,
Um, and it really, it's really something that I guess should be talked about more. Because I don't really see anybody talking about fatness and gender and being black at the same time. It's something
yeah,
that always like escapes, like when you see, like, Twitter discourse, like you'll never really see that. You'll never
right.
really see that talked about.
I definitely agree. Yeah, because I've said like myself, my access to femininity can be very sometimey, and it's sometimes like I feel the need to like hyper feminize myself. Like even though I like wearing
Mm-hmm.
menswear, I like having short hair, I like, dressing in like funky attire, I'm just like, oh my God, if I go out in this baggy thing that's unisex or whatever, somebody calls me sir, I can't promise you that I will be okay for the rest of the day. So I find myself like
Yeah.
negotiating that, like when I pick out my clothes, which it shouldn't be that serious. Like I should be able to wear what I want, like because you know how the thin girls be wearing their streetwear, all the baggy
Yeah, and
sweatpants, right?
it's still seen as like feminine on
Yeah,
them.
and cool, but like, oh, I look like a
Yeah.
slob when I do it, right? So yeah, definitely. Starting off heavy. So next, what were family gatherings like, especially ones centered around food and eating? Like we're heading into Thanksgiving, Christmas, which are holidays that are definitely centered around food, and we're all excited about the food. Well, I assume a lot of us are excited about the food that we're going to eat, but like sometimes for us, like those, it raises our hackles. Like, oh my God, what is somebody going to say if I get second? What are they going to say if I have a big portion of something on my plate? If I don't have any vegetables on my plate, like what are the looks going to be? I don't know. Like, what was that like for you growing up?
So actually so my immediate family, we kind of just stick together. So most of the time, like mostly over the years, we've actually just stayed to ourselves. And sometimes we've gone to like our extended family, like the family on my grandpa's side. And I remember one year that we did that. But otherwise we really just stick to ourselves. But even with that and that dynamic, um I feel as though like it's not as extreme, if that makes sense. It's not as, I guess, noticeable, or just something. I feel like maybe they'll say something in passing, um
Mhm.
and I'll take it to heart. It's When it comes to food, it was kind of worse, like when I was coming up, when I was growing up, um versus when I grew up a little bit more, because my family was concerned about my weight and my health, um and that was something that really stuck with me, like just outside of Thanksgiving, but like anytime I would like just food and me and like my family, they started to grow this. There was a point in time where they started to grow um this worry and this anxiety around me and my body, and where it would end up. They would chastise me for like eating too much or eating something so unhealthy, which was something that they encouraged in the first place, which was weird to me.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, like I think that I really like internalized that, and that's something that I'm like continuing to unpack today as an adult. um
Mhm.
because I still look at my eating habits and I look at what I'm eating, and I still feel like what I felt back then. I start feeling like guilty in a sense.
Mhm.
um and I think that it's odd because when I say my immediate family, it's really my mom and my grandma left, and they've both been fat at some points in their lives. My mom is still fat, and she was fat when that occurred. My grandma was on the skinnier side, but or the smaller side, but she still had some extra weight,
Mhm.
and it like seeing like the people closest to you really take that stance and really push for something after so long, like encouraging, like I guess the quote unquote unhealthy eating for so long, um really like messed with me. Um and I don't know, I just feel as though it's always been like shaky because I feel like we don't treat holidays as importantly. Like we'll cook and do everything else, but like it's not really that big of a deal. But like outside of that, I felt like it's weird because it that would be the day that normally people would think that you would get those comments, but or get that experience, but it's really been every other day outside of that
Okay.
in my
So you
experience in the
you got a
past.
pass on the
Yeah.
holidays, a rare
Yeah.
experience for sure. Yeah,
Hmm.
because I mean, yeah, it's definitely like me and Mariah were talking about it in our interview. Like on a day or surrounded by gluttony, you're gonna get mad at me for participating. Like
Yeah.
I'm doing you a favor. You cooked all this food. Someone's got to eat it. What's the point in getting mad at somebody 5 seconds? But I'm glad at least slightly that they didn't try you on the holidays. But of course, it was shitty that they
Hmm.
tried you on other days because it's like being a fat kid with a parent who is also fat is kind of like,
Yeah.
you
It's
know,
weird seeing like
yeah.
that fat phobia play out.
I'm like, you're not small yourself, sis. Why are you getting on me? What
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
Where's the accountability? Since the holidays weren't necessarily a time where you felt like they were surveilling you, was it kind of like a mind fuck in that sense then? Like, what did that do for you mentally? Like, any other time I would be like, you know, hyper aware of what I was putting on my plate, but today you're not, watching my every move. So how did that affect you mentally?
Um, I never really put much thought in it actually. Because I didn't realize it until, this interview actually. Like I didn't like do that thinking. I
Mm-hmm.
think that I was in this place where I was like, okay, I'm going to do what I want to do. If they really wanted me to make a change, they wouldn't have, put me in like the situation because I did have like health issues, but at the same time, it's nuance. It's like I can still be fat and like I can still enjoy things, and I didn't have to be put in this position where, I had to like be put on a diet and lose weight. No, I could still be fat and I could still um be healthy. And
Right,
I even if I wasn't like healthy, which I wasn't, like I didn't deserve like to, be put through the ringer like that. Um Psychologically as a child. There's we often talk about like with like fat discussions on how fatness and health, because that's a reoccurring like theme when it comes to fat phobia. And we've reached this point where it's like, oh, you know, you can be fat and healthy at the same time, and that's a valid experience. But at the same time, we shouldn't like shun or shame the fat people that are unhealthy in any capacity. That's not true fat
right,
liberation. Um, and I don't know, I felt like I was in the latter position where I was fat and unhealthy, and that was okay. And I don't know, I felt like I was kind of like, I don't want to say berated by, doctors and my family, but that's honestly what it kind of felt like as a child. Um,
right.
it
Yeah,
I didn't really, that wasn't the way to go about it at all, in my experience.
yeah. Because you kind of are thrust into, adolescence, like,
Mm-hmm.
or almost adulthood, honestly, like when you grow up fat and your parents or other adults are trying to intervene, you're treated like you're 10 to 15 years older than you actually are. Like, what you're doing, like you are an active participant in it. And it's like, well, no, I'm just eating the food that was given to me. I'm a child, like it kind of ages
Literally.
you, and you're given this agency that you didn't even know you had. And it's like, well, what do I do with this? How do I navigate this? People think that
Mm,
I'm at fault for it, right? And like your youth is basically taken away from you because you're also occupying a larger body. So people automatically associate large body with older age. So it's just
mm,
a lot. Like you're thrust into it, like I said. So yeah, it's definitely not how it should have happened, not how a lot of adults should navigate it. But I think, of course, we grew up under President Obama and Michelle Obama trying to address the
oh
childhood
yeah.
obesity, address the childhood obesity epidemic. She fucked up school lunch.
Oh
I
my god.
will never forget. Oh my god, it was so gross. Like our high school used to have like pizza, chicken sandwiches. Like, of course, like we know this isn't like a balanced meal. Like, no one is
Yeah.
pretending that it is. But like, so she turned the pizza into like multi-grain, whole wheat dough, and like the
That was so
tomato sauce
extra.
was just like so. It just night and day difference between the school year before to the school year when all of that stuff was implemented. It was disgusting. So yeah, like growing up in that time, like we kind of were forced to reckon with like, okay, so how do I lose weight because all these adults are breathing down my neck about it? Like, what was your like self talk like when you were going through all of this?
I felt like something was wrong with me. And I felt like I had to change. I had to put, some effort in to change my body to lose weight. And like, exercise and eat healthier. And I have a complicated relationship because of all of that. Like to this day, I have a really like rough um relationship or perception of exercise. And it when I would exercise, it put me in a really dark place. Um like my self-talk during like exercise, like workouts and any routines, like even doing push-ups, I felt like because I was doing like all of this during adolescence, but like it took me back to a place in my childhood where, I was in PE and the PE teachers were like ableist and fat phobic because back then I had really severe asthma and they wouldn't like work around or work with me. They tried to like put me on the same path as the other kids when I was not in the position to be able to do that. I wasn't able to keep up with the other kids. I needed somebody to be patient with me. I needed like help with like accessibility back then. But I wasn't granted that at all because I was fat and I was seen as lazy. Um, my body was just something for them to, this project to work on. It was seen as something that, had to be changed, had to be completed. I just didn't want to be that for them. But yeah, it took me back to that experience. And I remember like thinking to myself that I'm not good enough or I'll never live a happy life like this. I'll probably, not to get morbid, but I feel like I'll die earlier or something along those lines. That's where my head was at. Um, During all of that, during exercise, trying to, achieve quote unquote good health. And it really wasn't good health at all. It was still putting my mental health in jeopardy. It was still putting me in a bad place mentally. And people don't talk about that. People don't talk about mental health in relation to physical health. Um, they only focus on, the physical health, but it never focus like what is your head like when you're doing this. Have your mental health could be in a terrible place and people don't get that at all. Like
Yeah, they don't
it
care
is
how you
really
get there. They just care that you get to that ideal body weight or body or
Mm-hmm.
appearance. They don't care like what's going on behind the scenes. Like, so you basically internalize all of those negative scripts that were given to you, like, you know, the thoughts that you were having don't even sound like they came from you. They came from what others were telling you, was going
Yeah.
to happen to you. Like doctors saying, oh, you're going to get diabetes, you're going to get heart disease, cancer, all of these
Mm-hmm.
things because you're
Exactly.
obese. You're going to have all of these, or other people outside of the health profession, of course, love to tell you, like, no one's ever going to, want to date you if you look like this. So I feel like a lot of the self talk isn't really ourselves talking. It's the
Yeah.
voices, is the voices of other people speaking for us, speaking to us. And yeah, I definitely agree. Like, I still have trouble figuring out, like, okay, so I know I can exercise without the goal of losing weight, but I've never done it without that in mind. So I don't even know, like,
Mm-hmm.
what, like, I don't understand people who go out running. I'm like, where are you going? Like, what are you doing? Like, what? What's the point? Like, where are we going? Why are you just running?
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand who just do it just to do it. So that's something I'm still working through myself. Um, yeah, and it's the the idea of exercising was always about losing weight. Like, it always came after like a scare, like, oh God,
Yeah.
I weigh more than I anticipated weighing, or I look worse than I would like to look, or whatever. So let me go to the gym. It's always like a maintenance thing, not like a, oh, let me do this for my mental and physical health just to feel good. It's
Mm-hmm.
always about like still trying to meet those standards. And I even question, like, are the people who are at the gym every day, all day, every day, like, are they even really doing it for themselves? Like,
Yeah.
or can we even really separate our own personal goals from the overall project of white supremacy and that standard of beauty that was set forth by white supremacy? I don't think so. But you know,
Mm. Yeah.
lighten things up, shall we? What would you say? What would you say was like the point where you're like, okay, I'm tired of all of the shit that I was told growing up. I'm tired of all of the shit that was put in my head. All the things that kind of took me away from myself, from my true self, what I know myself to be. What was the point where you were like, yeah, I'm just gonna step away from that? And I mean, it's okay if like you're not fully there, because I don't think a lot of fat people really truly ever get there, as long as the world
Yeah.
is the way it is. Like, I don't think any of us can say like we've arrived, but what's the journey, the start of the journey at the very least?
So I am like only 22 years old. I'm about to be 23 in January next year. But at this point in time, I'm only 22 years old, and um, I, I'm at a point where I've started, the journey to self acceptance, and I often think about people who haven't had the access or resources until now, or people who still don't and need that to be able to accept themselves. But I'm so, I guess, grateful to find people and resources, find community and resources that put me on the journey to self acceptance and the journey of healing. Um, I it's It's been hard. It's been so incredibly excruciatingly difficult to get to a point where I am comfortable with myself, and
Mm-hmm.
to a point where I even love myself. And I'm trying, and that's what matters. It can be a lifelong journey. It can be, because this society that we've been thrust into is so cruel and so violent, and it can have such a negative and deadly effect on people. Um, I think that I'm in a place now where that I'm trying, and I'm not always there. There's always ups and downs, but I can say that I'm starting to love myself more and more, um, and that I'm beautiful, and that I'm always deserving of respect, and I'm always deserving of care and community. And I feel as though, not even I feel as though, I deserve to exist in peace.
Period.
I deserve all of these things, and other fat black people do as well. And I hope fat black people, such as myself, can find some sense of that, even if our journeys are all different. But I really sincerely hope that, we can find a place where we can get a peace of mind, and we can find community with each other, and affirm each other, and care for each other, and support each other. Um, I think that's where I'm at with um, my journey with accepting myself and my fatness.
It's beautiful. And I'm glad that you're, recognizing those things because a lot of people, no matter what their gender identity, like whatever their body size is, a lot of them don't even realize like you are at the on a very, very basic level deserving of respect and you have dignity no matter what you look like. And you deserve to have people around you that affirm you and uplift you. You don't have to change to get those things. So I think, in a sense, like already way ahead of a lot of people. So um,
Yeah.
not that it's a competition, but
Mhm.
um, yeah. Well, as I mentioned briefly, like we kind of met on Twitter in a space that is about affirming fat Black people, fat Black non-men
Mhm.
specifically, called hashtag Fatty Spaces. And that space kind of is, I mean, I just stumbled upon it because I follow, my gosh, their name is escaping me. I forget their name, but I follow them and I saw like, Twitter notifies you of like everything. Like, so and so is doing this. So I was like, what's this?
Yeah.
And so I just tipped on in there and I was like, wow, I love it here. This is a fun place and a space for conversations that don't often happen. And I definitely think that um, I wish more of those things existed in real life because
Yeah.
someone was mentioning like even regionally, it's like hard to find places like this because certain places are just like known for thinness. Like, you know,
Yeah. That
like
was
there are certain
definitely a
places
topic.
I would not move. Like living in LA, I don't know. Could I live in LA? Probably not. Like
Yeah.
Miami, nope. Definitely not. But fatty spaces, if you want to speak more on that, what has that done for you mentally and physically, even in the few times that they've had it? How has that been impacting you?
Um, I think that Fatty Spaces has been a completely needed and wonderful thing for a lot of people, including me. It's helped me get in touch with a lot of other Black fat people. Um, and it's been like really just hearing other fat Black people speak about their own experiences and putting a new light and a new perspective on their experiences with Blackness and fat phobia. It's been like so illuminating, and it's been so like affirming, and just hearing other people is just like it'll make you think like, wow, I've never like heard it put this way. I've never, you know, seen it in this light. And because fat phobia is so much more complex than people make it out to be, and everybody has a different experience with it. Um, it's really, I'm really glad that Cheyenne created Fatty Spaces because it was very much needed, um, especially because like I really don't know what it is. Like it's always been like this, but like as of recent, like people have been so much more fat phobic, and I think it might be because of the pandemic, but like it's just like there's been such a larger surge of like fat phobia and um people just not knowing about it and people just now like learning about it and people denying its existence. Like, now we have a name for it and people can't get away with it anymore. So people are like outraged at that. And
Yeah,
at this time, I'm really glad that Cheyenne made this because a lot of fat people have been getting harassed on Twitter. Um, like a lot, like in multitudes. And like it's just it can't continue to happen, and there needs to be like, especially with the social media movement with body positivity, um and like skinny people kind of taking, well, not kind of, they actually like overtook it, like
actually.
and made it into something for them. So I think Fatty Spaces was very much needed in order to reclaim um, our place and our experiences. And I think that like it should be continued. It Like
Definitely.
we should keep having Fatty Spaces because a lot of people are just ignorant and just don't want to accept the existence of fat phobia.
Right. Well, with that, do you have any advice to extend to other people, other Black fat people, as the holidays are coming up, even though it's not necessarily your experience?
Um, I think it's easy to say that, oh, you can do whatever you want. This is your body. You're putting that food into your body. You don't have to worry about what other people are saying. It's so easy to say that, but at the same time, like, it's really like rough hearing people like breathing down your neck about something that's how much is going on your plate and what's going on your plate, and watching like everything that you do like concerning food. um I just want to, I guess, extend like affirmation and uplifting and I want to say that you don't deserve what you're going through. You don't at all. You deserve better. And I hope that one day, even if this Thanksgiving or this, this holiday season isn't that time, that you escape all of that fat phobia. Even if this isn't that time, I hope that you can find peace and you can find support and uplifting um, from your community. And I want to say that I will always uplift you, and I'll always uplift fat Black people, no matter what. So you're not alone. Other people have this experience, and other people, you're not alone in experiencing this. Um, you have people that will support you and affirm you no matter what. And I'm one of those people. So yeah, um, I guess that's all I wanted to say.
Well, thank you so much for hopping on here with me today. I appreciate your perspective, and thank you so much for sharing that depth of information and all the things that you're going through, and allowing us to see part of your journey. I really appreciate it. Yeah. Do you like
Of
to add anything else?
course. No, just thank you for having me. That's all I really want to say. Thank you for having me and
Of
allowing
course,
me to
of
speak
course.
on your platform.
Well, that wraps up another edition of Unlearning and Unbothered with me, Joy Divine. Be sure to follow Textured Air on all social media platforms. Do you want to plug yourself, Nicole?
Uh, sure. My I'm most active on Twitter. So my Twitter is Iconic Beauty, and that's iconic with a K after it. Um, and I'm also on Instagram, though I don't use it as much as of late, but I'm trying to get back into it because I'm a licensed esthetician now. So I'm going to
Period.
start being more active on Instagram as well. So you can find me there. That's ICONICK Beauty.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for listening or watching. If you're watching this on IGTV or our YouTube channel, we certainly appreciate you joining us today, and we will see you next time.